Hello, Mr. Fry's Geometry. Taking a look at Unit 7, Homework 5, rhombi and squares. Let's take a look at number 1. And I have marked on here that UV is going to be 8. This is WX is 5, okay? So knowing that, if UV is 8, that means TU is going to be 8. That means WU is going to be 5 and 5, which is going to be 10. TX is going to be 5 also, and TV is going to be 10 because it's going to be 5 and 5 also. You might want to pause this as you go through this, and I would suggest when you get to the even ones, label things that it's giving you in order for you to better understand your answers that you're going to come up with. If you make mistakes, don't worry about it. Learn from them, and you're making progress. Number 3, I labeled everything, and I broke some stuff down. MK being 24, I didn't want to write the whole thing 24, so I just wrote 12 and 12 because that's going to be bisected, right? And then JL, this whole thing is 20, so that means this is 10 and this is 10. So, and then MJL is 50. So MJL 50. If this is 50, these angles here are bisected, so that means this is 50. Bisected means split in half. So if half of it's 50, the other half is 50. Now, I know this whole thing over here, if this whole thing is 100, this whole angle, then this whole angle has to be 80 because it has to equal 180. So if this is 80, what's half of 80? 40. And so this is going to be 40 and 40. So now I know these two are 40, these two are 40, these two are 50, these two are 50. That's how I get all my answers. The only weird one is ML. I do have to use Pythagorean theorem because I know the 10 and the 12, I got to know what this is. Okay, this side for all the sides. And all the sides are going to equal 15.6 because a squared plus b squared, or 10 squared plus 12 squared, equals 244. So take the square root of that and you get 15.6. So each side is going to be about 15.6. A little bit more than that, but we rounded it. Here are all your angles with all that information that I showed you just a minute ago. And then moving on to number 4. Taking a look at number 4, these two are going to equal each other. So I set them equal to each other in solving for x, isolating the variable. So x equals 12. So PQ, this side is going to equal either one of these sides. So I picked this one because this one looked easier, I guess. So I just plug in my x value for 12. And I get 76. So I guess I should say PQ equals 76 inches, miles, whatever. I don't know. Number 5. Oh, I wasn't even supposed to do that one. You guys got a bonus one. Just in class, somebody needed to see that one, so we did it together. Okay, so this one, these two angles are going to add up to be 90. Why? Because, you know, all of these angles are 90. So if this is 90, that means these two have to add up to be 90 because 90 plus 90 is 180, right? So I make these equal to 90, and I solve for x, and I get x equals 8. It's my process of combining like terms and isolating the variable, those old algebra things you used to do before geometry, but you still utilize it. Plug in that x value I plugged it in for this one to get these two angles. They're both going to be 55. Then I plugged that x value in for this one, 35. So these are both going to be 35. But angle HGI, let me see, HGI, it's going to be the same as these. So this one's going to be 35. How to set up number 6? To get started, these two are going to be equal to each other. So you could solve for x. And that's going to give you you want to know ADB. So you want to know this one. So take the whole thing, whatever you figure out x to be, you plug it into one of these and it'll be half of it multiplied by 2. That's going to be the whole thing. Take 180 minus this whole thing. You're going to get an answer. Divide that by 2. That's going to be what ADB is. Okay. Number 7. I know that this, if the whole thing, this was 136, so it's going to be 68 and 68. So this one, to just find this one right here, remember this is 90. So 90 minus 68 is going to give me what this equals, 22. So I just set it equal to 22, and I get x equals 3. Moving on to number 9. Sorry about the scratch-offs. I actually was doing it right, then I was doing it wrong, and then I went back to doing it right. VW, if this is 15, VW is going to be 15 also. And then SU, that whole thing. Whew. Well, I get we could have done it one of two ways. I ended up doing it just to find half of it, to find these two halves, okay? So what I did was I took 15 squared, which is 225. Then I divided it by 2 because it's going to be even, okay? It's going to equal 112.5. You got to take the square root of that. Square root of 112.5 gives you about 10.6. So it's about 10.6 for half of it. So SW will be 10.6. The whole thing would be 21.2. TV is the whole thing. That would be 21.2. Number 11. This is probably the easiest one on the whole page. Remember the whole angle is going to be 90. Split angles are going to be 45 because it bisects those angles. Bisecting means divided by 2. 13, which quadrilaterals always have diagonals that are congruent? Rhombi and squares. Which quadrilaterals always have diagonals that are perpendicular? Rhombi and squares. So, think about it. I mean, if you have a rectangle, it depends on how long the rectangle is. This one that's really long and thinner, these angles are going to be different, and they're definitely not going to be perpendicular, these angles in here. This is a huge obtuse, this is a tiny acute. So the perpendicular, it can't be, and parallelograms could look like that too. Just put those on a slant. It's not going to be parallelograms in rectangles, just to give you a little visual there. Good luck with the rest.